G'day, and this time on Buildsum, what I want to look at is the procedure for setting up or establishing a building site. So you've had your construction certificate approved after your DA, and you're now ready to start construction. So the council and a few other authorities are going to stipulate some things that you have to do on your building site, and then there's a few other things that are nice to do, so we'll go through those. So the first thing to think about is safety and security of your site, and the council will stipulate that you have to have a fence. Now, these temporary fences that you can hire are pretty popular. However, they are not stipulated that you have to have them. Council does not stipulate what type of fence you have to have, even what size or anything. They just say you need a fence, and the primary purpose of that fence is to stop someone just unwillingly or unwittingly walking onto your building site and hurting themselves. However, the second reason that they're good to have is for a bit of security, so that someone just can't walk on and take something. Okay, so a fence around your site doesn't have to be the whole way around your site if there's neighbours or something like that, but you can't have anyone just walk onto your site without some sort of fence or obstruction in their way. The other thing the council is going to want is some sort of sign on the front fence or visible from the outside of the site. So it just has to have some basic contact information, so a name and a number, just in case someone's walking past and they see, maybe a fire on site or something, and so there's someone they can contact and get hold of about that site. Most builders use that as a chance for advertising. They put their whole company logo and everything up there, but if you're an owner builder, just a name and a number is fine. The other thing people do with the fence nowadays is they put a shade cloth. Again, builders use it as an advertisement, but it does help with a little bit of security, and it also helps with cutting down the amount of dust and projectiles, things that are flying around on the site that can then come out and hit people that might be walking along the footpath. So you see that a bit nowadays as well. Alright, so that's the safety and security side of things. The other things we have to think about are the environment. So that's where our building's going to go, just for a bit of perspective. So the local environmental authority have some requirements that we need to do as well. So the first one is, generally if a vehicle drives onto the site and it's muddy, we don't want that vehicle tracking dirt off the site and down the road, because any dirt that ends up in our stormwater system, we can potentially be fined for that. So we need to have an area where the vehicle can be parked and you can wash the wheels off to stop any dirt tracking off your site. So what we do normally is in front of the garage where the driveway is going to be later, is we will put some large recycled concrete or large rock, so you can park the vehicle there, wash the wheels off, and then leave the site without tracking mud off the site. Another thing that the environmental authorities will require is a silt fence. You also have to think about, if you're going to have vehicles crossing this footpath, whether you have a footpath here or not, you can't damage the footpath. At the end of the job, that footpath will have to be fixed up so it's in working order. So if you can save it, or if you're going to cut it out later to put your driveway layback in, it may not be such a worry, but you may need to protect your footpath. Okay. The other thing the EPA is going to want, or the environmental agency, is silt fencing to the lower part of your block. So if this block's sloping to this corner and any water is going to run out of this corner, you put your silt fence in that corner. Okay, it's normally dug into the ground so the water can't get under it, and just lets the water run through. It's just like a shade cloth. The water can run through it, but any silt will be stopped and it will stay on your site. And as a backup to that, out in the gutter, we normally put in sausages or sandbags. Again, this just lets the water run through it, and any silt that gets out this far will be left behind the sandbag, and you can get out there after a bit of rain and just shovel that back onto site. So I'd put one in front of my site if there was a pit here, and then going down the street as well, another one just down here, just as a backup, so there's no dirt or silt from my site getting into the stormwater system. And then the next thing you need to think about is having some water on site. Okay, so there's my water meter. Somewhere close to the water meter, I would just put in a tap. All right, closer to the water meter, the less it's going to cost you. It may end up being a yard tap later, or it could just be temporarily done by the builder. But you need somewhere that the workers can get water. It has to be potable water for drinking, for mixing concrete, that sort of stuff. And the last thing that you absolutely have to have on a building site is a toilet. Okay, so portable toilet, service at regular intervals is another thing. So it's out of the way of the building, but accessible from the street so that the service truck can get in there and service the building. Okay, so there's sort of the minimum things that you have to set up your building site. In the next video, I'll have a look at some other recommended things and nice to haves when you're setting up a building site. G'day, I'm back. Just to let you know that if you like this video, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, or you can follow me on Facebook so you don't miss out on more great videos.